Thanks, Chairman Grassley. Let me address the issue which you raised in your opening remarks, because I think it is a critical issue before this Congress, and one which we have not settled within this committee as we should have. You will recall, of course, that when these three nominees were before this committee, a number of us asked pointedly whether they believed that a public official was bound to follow an order of the court. And I was surprised, maybe even shocked a little, that they didn't say unequivocally yes. This morning, again, a question has been raised by the chairman as to what the appropriate answer is. We've had members of the committee opine on this subject. I think we ought to dwell on it at least for a moment, and because of its gravity. This question gets to the very heart of our constitutional democracy. If the Article 3 courts cannot expect their orders to be followed by an executive, then virtually there is no check or balance on that executive's decision-making. And I think I have to say the person I thought spoke with clarity on this issue was Senator Kennedy on the Republican side from Louisiana. And he said, don't ever, ever take the position that you're not going to follow the order of a federal court, ever. He said, you can criticize it, you can appeal it, or you can resign. I think that comment by him spelled out my opinion as well, that anyone who questions an order of the court has limited opportunity to do it in a legal fashion and a constitutional fashion. It's often noted that when Joe Biden, as president, came up with a program to forgive student loans, the court rejected it. He said he disagreed with that court decision, and he took another approach. At no time was he found in contempt of the court for their earlier decision or anything that he did subsequently. Now, we've gone back in history to find some pretty terrible decisions by the court. Some of the worst have been noted even this morning, the Dred Scott decision being one of them. And the notion that because it was so inherently wrong, that it didn't have to be followed. I don't believe that that was the lesson of Dred Scott. I believe the lesson was stated clearly by Senator Kennedy and his interpretation of this issue which is before us. And I would just say that it raises a question in my mind. What if someone said Brown versus Board of Education, calling for the integration of America's public schools, is morally reprehensible to me and I'm not going to follow it? Well, if you take that position and try as an elected official to hold to it, you will be held personally responsible for a decision in contradiction of the court. I also say that I'm sorry that what I offered on the floor was not accepted. To say that you only have to follow a lawful court order is to engage in the most circular semantics possible. Marbury versus Madison made it clear that the courts decide what the law is. That has been the standing premise since that 1803 decision. And now to say you only have to follow a lawful court order, who decides whether it's lawful? Marbury said the courts decide. Is someone suggesting there's someone else who decides what's lawful? If so, if it happens to be the executive branch, you've just defeated the purpose of judicial review and the rule of law. I don't think this is a minor issue. I think this issue goes to the heart of our Constitution and checks and balances, and I believe it's legitimate to raise it with the nominees of either party because it is so fundamental. Let me add as follows on a different topic. It was just over a month ago that we confirmed Attorney General Pam Bondi. It's been only 3 weeks since we confirmed Kash Patel with the FBI. In that time, Bondi and Patel have plowed through many of the guardrails that protect us from the Justice Department and FBI's vast investigative and prosecutorial authority being used as weapons against the American people. During her confirmation hearing, Ms. Bondi said, and I quote, "I believe that the Justice Department must be independent and must act independently." And then she said, "Politics will not play a part." Now that she's been confirmed, we're hearing something different. Last week in an interview on Fox television with Sean Hannity, the Attorney General said, and I quote, "We are still trying to find a lot of people in the FBI and also in the Department of Justice who despise Donald Trump. despise us. We're going to root them out. We will find them and they will no longer be employed, end of quote. That does not sound like a declaration of independence and apolitical conduct from the Justice Department. During our confirmation hearing, Attorney General Bondi was asked about potential conflicts of interest with her many wealthy lobbying clients, including Amazon, Pfizer, the private prison company Geo Group, and the governor of Qatar. The Attorney General pledged under oath to us, and I quote, to consult with career ethics officials within the department. We know what happened next. Senator Schiff has raised this issue. Trump officials replaced the Justice Department's long-standing senior career ethics officials with two inexperienced political appointees. This is a dramatic departure from practice under previous administrations, including the first Trump administration. Just last week, in his first day on the job, Deputy Attorney General Todd Blanche destroyed two additional guardrails. He removed the senior career officials who headed the Office of Professional Responsibility and the Office of Pardon Attorney. It's not hard to imagine how corrupting these changes will be. Political appointees now have sole discretion making responsibility on matters relating to ethics, employee discipline, and whistleblower complaints, among other things. Now the Attorney General doesn't want to recuse herself from deciding whether to grant a contract to detain immigrants to her former client, Geo Group. She just needs to check with a political appointee who reports to her. And if Todd Blanche does not want to recuse himself from a decision regarding his former client, President Trump, he just needs to check with the political appointee who reports to him. If Attorney General Bondi wants to fire prosecutors because they won't participate in a corrupt bargain like dismissing charges against New York Mayor Eric Adams in exchange for his political cooperation, she just needs to check with a political appointee who reports to her. If she wants to kill an ethics investigation into her conduct or any other political appointee, she just needs to ask whoever she taps to head up the Office of Professional Responsibility. During his confirmation hearing, Kash Patel claimed that he didn't know anything about the purge of senior career FBI officials. He promised, if confirmed, and I quote, to honor the internal review process of the FBI before removing additional officials. Of course, we now know from highly credible sources that Mr. Patel was personally directing the removal of some of these senior officials as a private citizen. Since he was confirmed, Mr. Patel has continued the purge. He has installed political loyalists in numerous critical positions, including, for the first time in history, a deputy director who is a political appointee, MAGA podcaster Dan Bongino, serving as general counsel, head of congressional affairs, and head of public affairs. And my staff also learned that Patel is slashing staffing for FBI offices with critical expertise and responsibility, including the Civil Rights Unit and the Public Corruption Unit. I commend to my colleagues the floor statement made by Senator Chris Murphy on this issue of corruption. I think it was well worth everyone taking a look at. Keep in mind, in the FBI's long history, this has never happened before. Never. The FBI historically has had only one political appointee, the director. Now Kash Patel is politicizing the ranks of the FBI to go after President Trump's enemies. Remember, Trump himself has said, I have the absolute right to do what I want with the Justice Department. He's promised to seek retribution against, quote, the enemy within, close quote. Just as important, the leadership and experience vacuum created by this purge has weakened the Justice Department and the FBI. Trump appointees have removed dozens of senior career civil servants at those departments, including longtime nonpartisan leaders of our counterterrorism and counter-espionage effort. These career civil servants are responsible for coordinating the Justice Department and FBI's fight against terrorism. I hope I'm wrong, but I fear that our nation will pay a price sooner rather than later for these decisions. I yield.
Okay.